Hello and welcome. Glad to have you here for To Your Point, our monthly roundtable discussion on UCF sports and UCF adjacent topics. And tonight we bring you a special Ladies' Night edition with our esteemed panel that is prominent in social media and part of the Twitter mafia. I will introduce each of them as we roll out our first question. So first up, we welcome Emily Pontiff, who self-describes herself on her Twitter bio as an elite yapper. I love that. That's awesome. And of course, part of the One Night Stand podcast as well. So welcome, Em. We're glad to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
No problem. So let's drop that first question out there. The last game versus Texas Tech was blank.
As expected. I mean, you don't walk into a road game, number 6 team in the nation. I believe the statistic is that they have $28 million in NIL spending across the board. And I think it's really important to state that that's not just in skill positions. They spent a lot of money in the trenches where I think it really matters the most. They're a really well-coached team. They're a very disciplined team. I didn't expect a lot going into that game. I think the only statistic as I was reviewing the game afterwards that really kind of caught me off guard and is the only thing that was maybe a little bit upsetting was time of possession. So UCF actually had more time than Texas Tech did with the ball, almost a full minute more as far as time of possession was concerned, about 30 minutes to 29. So the fact that we only were able to get about 9 points out of that, I think is a little bit concerning, but you look at the fact that we've had struggles at quarterback. We've swapped out quarterbacks a million times, even in the game. Davi didn't play a significant amount of snaps, but there still was some back and forth going on. Very young wide receiver core that I think has really struggled with the constant changes at quarterback and a run game that can't get going. I don't really know what else could be expected from this squad walking into such a hostile environment against one of the best teams in the nation that really has a shot not only at the Big 12 Conference Championship, but really in the playoffs as well.
Yeah, definitely a tall order going in, absolutely for sure. Next up, we welcome Jackie Woodard. She is my Braves baseball pal on Twitter. And Jackie, how do you fill in the blank of the last game versus Texas Tech?
I definitely also had like what was expected. Like I was expecting the same outcome, but like, yeah, it was definitely bad. I truly did not watch the game, which I never really, I was like, all right, we're just going to keep an eye on the score. We're going to see how it goes. So I didn't get to see how it all played out, but it was, I knew it was going to be rough. I kind of, did the spread end up staying at 23 and a half? I don't know, was it? Did they change it? Because oh, that's kind of, I feel like we should get a little more there, but yeah, so it was just, I mean, we're young. We knew it was not going to be a good game. I don't even remember who I saw on Twitter. I think it was Sean was like, but people were freaking out and like, oh, this is so bad. I'm like, that's kind of what we all kind of knew was going to happen. So that's just how I felt.
All right, and next up, we say hello to Tiffany Colbert. We're going to call her Tiffany Colbert for the sake of fun for the show.
Well, that's fun. It is fun.
Yes, and she also graces Twitter with her fun takes on UCF current events and all sorts of fun stuff. So, Tiffany, how do you fill in the blank?
I would say a combination of painful and obviously, as expected, after what Texas Tech did to BYU, I knew going into it. And I kind of found this really funny meme about, these two cowboys. And it's like, whenever I told you not to bring a knife to a gunfight, I would have assumed that also would have included a fork and a spoon. And unfortunately, that's just kind of how the lineup helped. We led into it. We've had a lot of injuries with our team this season. And so our defense has been amazing, but our offense just hasn't really, really been there. So going into it, I wasn't expecting a lot from UCF, but, it's just one of those part of the growing pains, so to speak, I think of us being in a season with a newer coach who came in late to the game when it comes to recruiting. And like Em said, Texas Tech has a bigger budget. They're able to do a lot more. And we're just, unfortunately, a newer team altogether, a newer school, younger. So we have a few more hurdles that we have to overcome in order to be able to compete on this same field with the way NIL is. So, yeah.
Well, I'm going to consider myself a smart person in this group as well, because I was also going to use as expected to fill in the blank. So everybody's all in lockstep on that. The interesting thing to me, though, and I want to kind of get your guys' take on this too, because the last two road games, we've just been totally blown out. I went to Waco for the Baylor game. I think the Knights thought they were still on Eastern time when the game started, because they definitely did not show up. So I would like to ask, and we'll go in the same order. So is it disheartening that the team just kind of seems to lack a little bit of fight, though? I mean, Baylor was a winnable game, and the way they came out in that game was very disappointing. And we knew they were going to lose to Texas Tech, but I still kind of felt there was a little bit of a struggle putting up a fight in that game. Emily, what do you think?
So I think Baylor was probably more disappointing than Texas Tech was. I don't know that I fully agree that the team lacks fight. I think back to the Kansas State game where they really like scratch and clawed. That was a game where they were constantly behind, but there were several points in time in that game where it seemed as though they were trying to come back and they were trying to come in, and the team really never showed a lot of quit. I think of like the Houston game where you throw in a QB4 as Taven gets hurt with that hamstring injury, and they're still trying to go literally down to the last play where he threw that pick. So did they come out flat against Baylor? 100%. I would say that they came out flat against Baylor, but I don't know that I agree that they just roll over and show their tummies. Like, I don't think that they ever just stop. And that's one thing that I think is consistent for all of Scott Frost's teams.
Yeah, and I will qualify too. I'm kind of having my concerns, which obviously they have a long road losing streak. So I would preface it to that. But Jackie, your thought?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like in the moment when it's watching him, like it is like super disappointing. Like I feel like, but then after I'm like, okay, take a step back. Like we knew this was going to happen. I just feel like we're overmatched and we just got to give it time. So usually in the moment I'm heated and I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, okay, I need to relax. And like, this is what we kind of knew was going to happen this year. And I knew that. I was like, oh, win 4 games and I'll be happy. And then I get mad that so I don't know. I don't think so. I'm like overly disappointed. And I agree with Emily. I don't feel like they're showing like a lack of fight. Just think don't have the players and need some time.
Tiffany?
So my expectations were probably a little bit more optimistic. My hope, and I know it was looking at the Houston game, it was just so close and there was so much fight, and our defense did such a good job, coming back and making those plays. I think that the spirit sort of was like one of those like spirits willing, but the flesh is kind of weak sort of a situation. And, UCF and injuries is not a new thing. We've seen that, year in, year out, where we've just run into that with certain positions, particularly I'd say, quarterback. That's been probably consistently one of our biggest and weakest spots, just because of consistent injuries. I think the guys, their hearts are in it. It's a matter of time, matter of development, matter of getting the right people into the right spot. We see that. I've seen those glimmering moments throughout the games, throughout the season, where you see it and it's like, oh my gosh, yes, this is exactly what I remember, UCF is. Like, we talked about back when Coach Frost was here before. You have the UC Fast and all of that, and you capture that and you see it on the field, and it's exciting. So it could just be, like I said earlier, a matter of just getting, a little bit of our feet under us again, when it comes to like recruiting and going forward into hopefully maybe a better season next year and just leading up into that.
Well, there's one great positive that came out of Saturday. The Cows lost to Navy. So
Yes.
Take our wins where we can get them.
Yes, no, I was pulling hard for that because, I would totally lose my, what, if the Cows made the playoffs before.
Yeah. That would suck.
And not in the way anybody would like.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely terrible. All right, let's move to our next topic. Here we are, last 2 games of the season. Can UCF salvage a bowl bid? Jackie, no pressure. You could answer this one first.
I'm gonna go with no. Yeah, I just don't see it happening. I'm just hoping we get the win against Oklahoma State this weekend. Like that's big. We need that. We definitely need that on senior night and everything. But yeah, I'm gonna go with probably not. Would be my realistic expectation.
All right, Tiffany, do you have the same realistic
Oh my
expectation?
gosh. It's like yes and no. It's like the realist in me wants to say I kind of have to agree with Jackie there. I think that we have a really good point, really good opportunity and likelihood to be able to win and pull a win off on Saturday against Oklahoma State, especially for senior night. But that road game after that leaves me a little bit uncomfortable with our likelihood, even though I want to be super optimistic because it is football. Anything can happen. You never know. It's the Big 12. So I don't know. Cautiously optimistic, but probably not.
All right, Em, are we 3 for 3 on this thought?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty on record on several shows at this point, from the beginning of the season saying that we were going to go 5-7. I'm feeling pretty good about that prediction right now. Obviously, a Mike Gundy-less OSU is probably a little bit more surmountable at home than on the road. BYU, it's a holiday weekend. It's going to be cold. BYU is a great team. And so there is such a thing as any given Sunday, but I would not put money on it at all. Or any given Saturday, I guess, in this case.
I will tell you, so I also predicted 5-7 to start the season. And I really wanted to be wrong in the right direction, but
Yes.
you bring up the any given Saturday. Have you noticed in college football, with I think the way the landscape is now, that is becoming more and more prevalent, like it is in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a big part of that is the constant turnover that you're seeing on teams. When you don't have teams that are constantly getting to know each other and constantly getting to mesh, and it's all these kind of shape-shod teams of really, really good individuals that don't necessarily learn how to gel together as a team, I think it makes it a little bit more unpredictable versus when you have these really, really well-established squads that know each other and can go out and perform very consistently week to week.
It's kind of like glorified pickup football,
Mm-hmm.
especially. It's sort of like the sort of like a patchwork kind of a team situation is what we're seeing now. I think with the NIL and the transfer portal and how things are. So I absolutely agree there.
Yeah.
I think too with the expanded playoffs, I feel these teams they don't have to feel the pressure of having to go undefeated anymore. So I feel like it's kind of they're able to kind of take that step back. Like you don't have to go undefeated to make the playoff anymore. So not that they're not trying as hard to go undefeated, but it's not as like oh my God, you can't lose. Like it's not the end of the world if you lose one game early on kind of thing. So I think that's definitely taken an effect.
All right. So let's we hit the halftime break of this show, and we do a little thing called Rank 'em, where we ask our panel to rank a topic, and our topic this time is what are your top 5 UCF sports moments? Tiffany, lead us off.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so for me, I would probably have to lead it off with the 2017 AAC Championship double overtime thriller is what I'm going to call it. I was at that game. I was there. I remember going into back-to-back overtime, standing the entire time. But overtime is where legends are made. Memphis scored instantly in OT1, forcing us to respond, and Otis Anderson delivered. And then in second overtime, Otis scored again. And we were able to finally pull it out where Trey Neal jumped in and intercepted Ferguson's pass for that. And it was just such an intense game and so thrilling and exciting and absolutely, head on delivered that whole feeling of cardiac night that for me is probably like my number one across the board.
All right. What's in the rest of your top five?
Rest of my top five, I'm gonna have to go with number two is gonna be Danny White making that claim of being the 2017 national championship. Love it or hate it. I feel like that's a move that really put UCF on the map overnight. Suddenly every major sports show in America is talking about UCF. People are still arguing, debating, yelling. We're sitting there with popcorn, watching the chaos that we created. And the best part, as an attorney, I can actually say this with a straight face that you can literally judicially notice the fact that UCF was a 2017 NCAA champion because it's the official selector, the Colley matrix right there on page 115 of the 2018 NCAA FBS record book. So we do have the receipts. I know some fans have some mixed feelings about it, but I am absolutely here for that energy. It's the kind of vibe that I feel like we still need, even to this day.
Still
so
has
that's
a
number
life.
two.
Yeah.
Yes. My number three would be the day that Lee Corso, of course, became Nitro. It is 2018 ESPN College Game Day. He does make his picks, but instead of just picking a helmet, he literally embodied Nitro. It's just unbelievable, perfectly theatrical, national, kind of like an on-air coronation of UCF. And so that was it was amazing. I would say my fourth one, and I was there for this game, was the crazy night that Heupel was waving the clipboard. It was 2018, it was our blackout game. We were playing Cincinnati, and again, it was still the day that game day was there. And he came out with his shacket that he is known for, and he just starts waving the clipboard, trying to get the crowd rallied. We did our job. We became that, extra player to sort of boost the stadium momentum. It exploded. Cincinnati's offense couldn't hear a thing. They false started. They burned timeouts. It was just completely unraveled underneath the pressure, and that was an awesome moment. And then I would probably say my final one in this series would be whenever we did the upset for the 2021 Gasparilla Bowl, whenever we took out the Gators, because there's always, that whole big brother, little brother. Are we equal? Are we different? What's going on? I mean, obviously the Florida legislature had to actually enact an entire law to get UF and FSU to play one another. So to be able to do that at a bowl game, and everybody's going to have their naysayers. Everybody's going to have, like, well, the players were playing or whatever. Like, it's a bowl game. The whole point is to win. You show up, and UCF showed up. Bowser was incredible in the field. He had 155 rushing yards, controlled the tempo of the game. He delivered, and it was the night that UCF took Florida's lunch money and reminded everyone in the state that college football landscape in Florida had absolutely totally changed.
And I believe Em got a viral Zoom background out of that.
Yes, she did. She did. Yes.
Which that was also very, very phenomenal. All right. Excellent top five there. All right. So up next, Emily, what do you got?
Yeah. So my number five, actually, ironically, is Josh Heupel encouraging the crowd in the 2018 championship game against Memphis. And the reason why that one stuck out to me was that was my final year as a student, and we were down. If anybody remembers, we were down 38-21 at the half. Right before the half, Mackenzie Milton had gotten hurt in the game before against USF. The entire crowd was wearing lays. It was DJ Mack's first game really fully as a Knight, as our starter. I don't know how hopeful everybody was for that game, and to be trailing like that, he came out in the second quarter, walked onto the field during a timeout, and turned around to the crowd and literally was waving his hands as if to tell us not to give up on this team. We obviously came back to outscore Memphis 35-3 in that game. We won. We went on to the Fiesta Bowl that year. So that was my number five. Number 4, we're going to go back in time. We're going to go back in time to JJ Wharton's Temple catch in 2013. And the reason why I love that one so much is just the context of it. And my husband and I actually went back and watched the last 5 minutes of that game last night. 1 minute and 6 seconds left. You're down, you're trailing. I don't know that a lot of people, when they watch that clip now, they cut out Blake Bortles from it, but Blake was hit as he was throwing the ball, which I think is just such a fun twist on that. And so you get the one-handed diving catch backwards, just unbelievably athletic. I think that's a really fun one. My 3 is going to be Mike Hughes' reservation for 6, 2017. Without that win, we do not stay atop the USF Bulls in the War on I-4 standings. That was obviously such a big year for UCF to go undefeated that year and to show up in a time in which we needed that in order to set ourselves up for the Peach Bowl win, I think was just so important and such a big moment. My number 2 is going to be 2014 Fiesta Bowl win over number 6 Baylor. And the reason for that one for me is that actually is where I put UCF on the national map. A lot of people point to the Peach Bowl as that moment, but I think it actually does go back to 2014. And I specifically say that because I am not from Florida. I never lived in Florida. I was an Army brat. I lived all over the world. I was living in Oklahoma at the time, so proximity to Baylor was close. And we had the game on because it was kind of a local game and it was around the holidays, Fiesta Bowl, turn it on. And all of a sudden I see this team from Central Florida and they were still calling us Central Florida with this electric quarterback, Blake Bortles. And I suddenly knew who UCF was because of this win, and nobody in the region could believe that it had happened. And that was really the game that when I, in 2015, then started looking at schools, I remember telling my parents, like, oh, I want to go to school in Florida. I want to look at UCF. I know who Blake Bortles is. So that was my number 2. My number 1 being Antoine Collier's game-sealing 2017 interception in the Peach Bowl. If you want to talk about just another moment that really sealed our fate, I think, going into the Big 12 and moving up into the power conferences, I think that was it. Tiffany made a great point about that, then set up Danny White to be able to make our national championship claim. But Antoine Collier just kind of putting like the cherry on top of that win and ensuring that we got it is my number 1 moment.
Good stuff there. And I want to follow up on the JJ Wharton catch because that is the greatest catch I have ever seen.
Yeah.
Bar none.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was watching the game at the bar in Bubbaloo's in Apopka. And people are chit-chatting, not really paying attention to the game. I'm the only one who's watching the game. And all of a sudden, the whole place hears me goes, he caught it!
Yeah.
And I knew from the get, he had it all the way.
Yeah.
Even after they looked at it 100 times.
It was like a one-hand catch, too.
It was one-handed, one-handed
Yeah.
diving back through the end zone. And I think everybody talks about Hale Perriman. Another great catch. Another fantastic. Like if I had to do like an asterisk on like this would be my number 5, if not for me having the emotional attachment to being a student during Josh Heupel's time, it would be Hale Perriman. But I think the JJ Wharton catch beats the Hale Perriman catch. It's just so much more athletic from both ends.
He was completely horizontal. I mean,
yeah.
Just,
and Blake's getting hit as he's throwing it. Like you just can't beat it. It has to be on
the drama. The drama.
Yeah. It was spectacular. Yeah. You know, we probably could have done a top 10 list.
Yeah.
All right. Jackie, how about your top 5?
All right. So number 1, it's a Peach Bowl for me. Like just going to that game, just leading up to it, obviously everyone's like, oh, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of chatter. They don't deserve to be there. You don't know what's going to happen. With Frost had already taken the Nebraska guy. I remember like going to the stadium and it was snowing outside. And I was like, okay, it's a good sign. Like, last Frost, it's snowing, and just winning that game and all the people that were, talking crap to me for like, oh, they don't have a chance, yada, yada, yada. So definitely Peach Bowl is number 1. Number 2, War on I-4. I'll never forget like my watch going off about my heart rate in that game, because I was just like, oh my God, like if we don't like win this game, that was So that was an awesome game going to there. I remember like my friend, didn't have service in the stadium, but just like people texting me that don't even like care about UCF, like they were watching like, oh, this is like greatest game ever. Like, so War on I-4, number 2. Number 3, I couldn't like pick over both conference championships in the American versus Memphis because, like Emily said, the comeback that was insane. Like I remember at the half, I'm like, there's no way they're going to come back from this in 2018. And then when they came back, it was just amazing after everything, after Mackenzie, to go on to the Fiesta Bowl, and then obviously to finish out the undefeated season before the Peach Bowl. So I kind of cheated and tied them at 3 because I wanted to fit in one last one at 5. Not football related. So then 4 would be game day, just the overall experience of being there all day and just how loud it was on those first couple drives. And that overall atmosphere was awesome. And then number 5, I wanted to go with some women's sports. And so I put UCF softball getting to host a regional and then winning to move on to super regional, because as someone who's followed softball my whole life, it's unheard of that you get to host a regional in the state of Florida, because you're competing with Florida and Florida State every single year. And so them doing what they need to do in the regular season and getting to host and then winning that regional and going to super regionals was an awesome moment for me.
Yeah, guess what? That one's on my list too.
Oh, awesome. Look at that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go from 5 to 1, and I'm not a lot older than you guys, but I am older. So I'm going back to 1994, UCF making the NCAA tournament for the very first time. They beat Stetson in what was then called the Transatlantic Athletic Conference, which eventually became the Sun Belt. They win that game on the home floor, and they would go in as a 16 seed to the NCAA tournament. They would lose to Purdue and Glenn the Big Dog Robinson, but I got to make that trip, and they played in Rupp Arena, which is one of the hallowed halls of college basketball. So that was a big moment being a basketball junkie, especially an NCAA tournament junkie that I am. 2013, UCF knocking off Penn State in Happy Valley. That's really when they finally cashed in a victory over a power conference team. And of course, that did propel them for that special Fiesta Bowl season in the win over Baylor. The softball one is my 3rd. And the fact that, they beat a ranked team in Michigan to do so. Terrific job. And Coach Cindy Ball Malone is the best coach on campus by a lot. My number 2.
She's badass.
Yeah, she is. She's awesome. 2019, UCF winning their first ever NCAA tournament game over VCU. That, of course, would lead to their classic duel with Duke and the near upset of the Blue Devils. That was such a high and low mixed bag there. But the fact that they didn't get one win finally was tremendous. And then I'm going with the Peach Bowl's number 1. I mean, that was kind of the crowning achieving moment and an amazing season. And, and you look at teams as they have undefeated seasons or they compete for championships, they faced a ton of adversity along the way. And to pull out the games they pulled out, and then honestly, they dominated Auburn in the Peach Bowl. They made a bit of a comeback in the second half, but they definitely made the statement. And of course, it was the high of that season. Scott Frost, he did what very few guys do when he leaves the program. He stayed till the bitter end, working both jobs. Good luck finding anybody else to do that these days. That's just not going to happen. And of course, who would have thought that Gus Malzahn would have become our coach after?
Definitely some conspiracy theories there, but
yeah. As he plotted his long revenge.
Yeah.
You can make a case, that's for sure. All right, great top 5 list there. So yeah, we should have done 10, but here we go. All right, so back into our topic list. Let's go into our 3rd topic, and is it time to roll with Belfort as QB1 to finish out the season? And Em, take it first.
So here's the thing. I think it's now time to look forward to the future. Unless you really, really think that you can pull out these next 2 wins to get to a bowl game, I think you need to be thinking about what the future of the program looks like. I think it's pretty obvious at this point in time that Taven's not the future. I don't believe that Davi is either, or I think that he probably would have been in for the second half of Texas Tech. And I'm starting to get a little bit frustrated with our fan base online because you have people that are calling for the benching of Taven and they want Davi in. Davi is QB4. I don't know when we stopped trusting Scott Frost to make quarterback evaluation decisions when this man recruited and developed Marcus Mariota. People forget that. He was the coach for Marcus Mariota at Oregon and then came on to do the same thing for Mackenzie Milton. And so I don't know when we stopped trusting that QB evaluation, but to all of a sudden say that we think that QB4 is better than who was at the beginning of the season QB2, I think is really interesting. And so I want to look at some statistics from Texas Tech to kind of like back this up. So Taven went 27 for 33, 178 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, quarterback rating of 86.6%. That is not terrible, especially behind an O-line that we have basically seen as a revolving door and a non-existent run game. He was sacked 4 times for 16 yards, which is not great, but that's not the difference between a game that is won and a game that is lost. And again, you can kind of point to a really inconsistent offensive line for that. So I think the fact that he consistently is starting despite battling AC joint injuries and hamstring injuries, I think you have to look at Scott Frost and say, I trust you that the guy that's standing behind him healthy and ready to go is not more talented than the man you keep putting on the field. Now, if Davi is our option moving forward next year, probably time to let him start getting in and making snaps. But I don't think that's the case. I think we go hunting in the portal and we find our next guy. And so at that point in time, put forward the guy that's going to give you the best chance at winning. And if Scott thinks that even banged up Taven is the best option we have out of the 2, no, don't give me Davi. Give me the guy that Scott's evaluating day in and day out in practice.
You do mention, so with the hamstring injury, so that explains a lot of the poor throws he had, because obviously you can't drive through the ball when you have a hamstring problem. So,
and you can't hop up. I mean, like, you think of that classic, I'm a Packers fan, classic Aaron Rodgers hop ball. Every once in a while, we'll see one of those from Taven. Can't really do that when your hamstring's screwed up. So, I mean, it messes up your mechanics and it messes up your throws, and wide receivers aren't always catching the ball either. So.
All right, Jackie?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think at this point, like, I agree, like, really neither one of them is going to be probably our future quarterback going forward, like, for the long time. I think that Davi's had like some really strong points, and he's gutsy, like, he's fast, like, I like, he's gone out there and he's done what he needed to do. But I think, yeah, Taven just he's not getting any help with O-line. He's gone back up there, like Emily said, he's beat up every game. He's been beat up, and he's out there and he's putting himself out there, and no matter how beat up he is, he's hurt. So I think you kind of got to just let him go forward. And I'm okay with whoever Frost puts out there. I get, like Emily said, like, he's the one. I'm not there every day. I don't see what's going on. So, but at this point, it's like either to stick with Taven. I think he just put himself out there for us, for his team, when he's obviously not 100%. So I think you stick with him. But I'm not. Like, I think that Davi's done a good job too when he's gone in. That last play against Houston, I was really hoping he was going to get it, and he went in there and he's running around, he's scrambling. But I think you got to stick with Taven.
In the Houston game, don't you take the field goal there?
I guess.
No?
I think no, but then, I was talking with Eric, and he's like,
no, especially because there was a guy
yeah.
schemed wide open in the end zone. I think you take one more shot, and then you're set up for the field goal where you are.
Okay.
Yeah,
you don't expect your guy to throw a pick with a wide open guy schemed in the middle of the end zone.
That did suck. Yeah.
Yeah. Tough spot to be in for sure.
It is.
All right, Tiffany.
So I'm going to kind of throw in just sort of a little bit of a different take. Not that I disagree. I think that Taven has absolutely done his best It's hard to be able to play, week in, week out, whenever you're not being protected, whenever you are being injured. Those injuries completely add up. So it's going to really depend on what the strategy is moving forward for the next 2 games, because it is doing our best to win. If Taven's healthy and that's who Coach Frost believes is the best option for us to do it, then we go with him. If it is looking to the future and looking to next season, maybe we're going to stick with developing, Taven for next year. Maybe we're not. Maybe we're going to do like Em said, which is pull somebody from the portal. Or maybe, and this is the thing that I've seen, and I kind of mentioned to a little bit earlier, was we are not new to QB injuries, where we've had true freshmen come in and play, and the only way they get better is by actually putting in time in an actual game versus just practicing, because I think that in order to truly develop, you have to have that game time. You can practice all you want to with the practice squad, but after a while, you're sort of at a disadvantage because everybody sort of knows what's going to happen, how people are going to move. There's a level of familiarity versus whenever you're in that game time decision. The only way to improve those skills is to just be very, very practical about it. And I think that that's sort of what Davi ran into in the last play with Oklahoma, where if maybe he had had a few more reps, he could have seen the guy that was open. Because up to that point, he was doing a really great job of running the ball. And we need somebody who's versatile. Look at KZ. He was able to both throw and run the ball. Taven, bless his heart, needs to learn how to slide. That would be helpful. But if you have somebody like Davi who is able to sort of do both and who can get those reps, and again, maybe give Taven some time off to start recuperating maybe for next season or whatever we're looking at going to the future, or again, to at least, give like Davi some time to just actually develop on the field in actual gameplay for next season, that's what you do. So again, I agree at the end of the day, whatever Scott Frost decides, like, he's going to have UCF's best interest at heart. I don't doubt that one bit. But, at the end of the day, it depends on what the goal is, what the motivation is, what we're looking to do going into the next 2 games.
I did my UCF football roundtable at the end of August, and I brought up the fact we played 4 quarterbacks last year. You could technically say 5 because of RJ getting a few snaps. And guess what? We had to play 4 quarterbacks again this year. Guess what that means? You're cooked.
Yeah.
you just have no chance to develop any kind of rhythm or consistency.
Yeah.
We saw Taven when he got that little stretch of a few games there where he was performing pretty well. We knew Cam Fancher pretty early on was not the guy. God bless him. He's got guts. I mean, he took a beating in the Cincinnati game. People get thrown in jail for beating a guy up that bad. And, I look at Cam Fancher like that guy should have been a slot receiver as elusive as he is. He should have changed positions, but might be too late for his college career to do that now.
A little bit.
So yeah, it's going to be back to the portal. And guess what we know about the portal? It's hit and miss.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a crapshoot.
Yeah. KJ Jefferson was supposed to be the savior and was totally the opposite of that. So it'll be.
But I just think about the. Sorry, whenever you mention that, the only thing I can ever think of is the fact that he could not make a 3-yard pass at the UF game, and so
yeah.
Yeah, that was a stinker. And then, and how much did we lose? In I don't mind picking on Gus Malzahn. He was hard headed with JRP being the guy, and look how many quarterbacks he ran off because he was hard headed about JRP.
Yeah,
and you look at how they've gone elsewhere and had success. So, yeah.
JRP is a little bit more defensible for me than KJ though, because he
True.
did go on
Oh,
to get drafted or I think he was
Free agent
UFDA.
signing,
Yeah. Or UDFA. But he still was on a practice squad. And so clearly there was some level of talent there versus KJ Jefferson. One, if you want to talk about somebody that doesn't have a lot of fight, I don't know that KJ did. I don't know that his heart was in football.
No.
I think that he was probably pretty good at it, and all of a sudden you could get paid for it. And so why am I not going to do a thing that I am being told that I can do at this level for this amount of money? I don't know that he loved it. He seemed way happier when he was benched, quite frankly, just body language on the sidelines. But I think JRP is more defensible than KJ, I think is my point.
Yeah, he had his shining moments. He definitely had some good moments. It wasn't like there was nothing good from
Right.
KJ,
I
pretty
don't
much.
disagree with
At least
that.
JRP had good moments.
Yeah. And JRP was a great center fielder too. So
Yeah, and I'm still
That's
bummed
true.
he didn't play that other season. Yeah, actually.
yeah, no, terrific athlete.
Yeah.
Just not a top flight quarterback. That's just
Yeah.
the truth of the matter as far as that goes. All right, let's flip over to our final topic, and UCF basketball 4-1 start, big road win at Texas A&M, a tough, scrappy win over Oakland. Don't sell the Horizon League short because they have a lot of good teams that play in that league, and they got a win to go 4-1 on the season. So the question is, Jackie, do you believe in UCF basketball?
I feel like every year it's the same thing. We win a couple of those big games, they get excited, and then we get into conference and it's like up and down, up and down. So I'm trying to be positive, but I mean we'll see kind of what it holds. I don't know what we're like if we're looking at this is like he's got to prove himself this year, Dawkins, or what. But yeah, I just feel like it's the same story every single year. So I don't know. I'm half and half.
So you're not buying or selling. You're kind of waiting on the rent.
Yeah.
To do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Tiffany, do you believe in UCF basketball?
So I will say that first and foremost, I will disclose and disclaim I am not particularly a basketball fan. I sort of like the sports and believe in, necessary roughness like football and hockey. That being said, I have enjoyed going to some of the games and I followed along, and I can absolutely echo what Jackie just said, where you have those bright, shining, glimmering moments of just, oh my gosh, we pulled off this huge win. It's great. It's amazing. But at some point in time, the steam is lost. It sort of pitters out, and it just sort of feels like there's a little bit of heartbreak watching it, year after year. So I hope that we do better, but I'm not sure about that. I'm not confident fully in it.
All right, Em, do you have belief?
So I can make this really short. I am not a basketball girly. I saw this come up on the topic list, and I was like, how do I get on the show and say that I've not watched a single game? I am
truth is good.
attempting.
It's fine.
Yeah, I'm attempting to start to watch like some more like Magic games. Have not been home for any of the UCF games where I've been available to put it on. So I will continue to put out memes as I can. But I don't know that you're going to get an intelligent answer out of me on this one.
Sorry, it's all Blake.
Jackie, do you
I know,
have, does Blake have an opinion for us?
Blake, what do you think about UCF basketball? What do you say? What do you think about UCF basketball? Huh? She says poop. So,
That's the official word of Blake right there.
and then boo, they stink, because that's what Dad told her to say. So
Oh boy, it's family
Blake
hour here
take.
at the show today.
Yeah.
Good job. Good job there. All right, so my thought is, and this kind of echoes previous statements, and I'm going to harken back to the classic film Beverly Hills Cop with the classic line, "I'm not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe," because it is the same old song each and every year. They have a great non-conference record. They hit conference, and this happened in the American, also an undervalued basketball conference, but it happened in the American, And guess what? You can't even afford to do that in the Big 12 because you definitely have 10 teams that are going to be in the mix for the NCAA basketball tournament. So, you know, I love Johnny Dawkins as a man. He is an incredible person, but it's time for a change. And, you know, they're not going to put the same money into basketball as they are into football.
Yeah.
So you're kind of limited to what you get. They may have to go to that route where you get the up and coming coach, knowing he's probably going to springboard 2 years later to a bigger job. Although UCF being in the Big 12, if you can find some success, you could make it a long term, but you might have to start taking some chances as far as that goes, because clearly we did not capitalize on the 2019 tournament, and we've it been flatlined essentially ever since. So we'll have to now. Our mission will be to get Em to watch some basketball games.
So going to the actual game is a lot more fun than watching it on TV. So
we actually used to be season ticket holders. We were. And so like I was following from the time I was a student all the way until like I moved in with my husband and we were season ticket holders. I followed UCF basketball very closely, and then it's just like pittered out.
Yeah.
which is ironic now that we're in such a good league, to your point.
Mm-hmm.
Like now that we're I guess I should say conference. Now that we're in such a good
ring
conference.
for using the show name there. Good job.
Yeah. But yeah, no. I'm usually by the time the new year rolls around, I pick back up watching a little more.
Yeah, you know, it's tough to get everything in. So there's just so much to consume as far as that goes. All right, so now we have hit the near end of the program, and we do a little thing that we like to call nightcaps. So as we pour one out, each one of our panelists gets as much time as they want, essentially 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, to deliver a monologue on any topic of their choosing. And that's kind of dangerous when you say any topic, because we've had people go off the rails on this show with that before. But Tiffany, you get the first opportunity.
Okay. Well, I would just say, you know, let's be honest, we're 2 years into the Big 12, and for a program with UCF's potential, its markets, resources, and fan base, when it comes to athletics all around, it does sort of feel like we're falling a little bit behind. And I think that should light a fire underneath every single person in leadership, because this conference doesn't wait for anyone. You either keep up or you get left behind. There's no middle ground. That's why the role of athletics director is more important now than at any other point in time in the history of college sports. You know, NIL, it's not some side project, it's the battleground. Fan experience, it's not a luxury, it's the product. Donor engagement, our shareholders, it's not optional, it's survival. And you can see that the schools surviving and thriving in this chaos, they're not doing it by accident. They have ADs who are sharks, visionaries, people who just don't react. They anticipate, they innovate, and they execute. You know, we have the potential to dominate this era. We have the fan base, we have the eye for talent, we have the brand, we have the Orlando market. You know, we have something that we could take advantage of, and I don't know why we haven't done so. It's the Rosen College of Hospitality, a world-class institution that could turn UCF into literally the gold standard for fan experience, donor hospitality, and game day culture. All of the things that recruits and their families notice the second they step on campus. Because in this conference where anybody can beat anyone, because we saw that circle last year, except for maybe us in Oklahoma State this year, you can't coast, you can't drift, and you can't assume that potential will carry you forward. This is the moment where leadership matters. This is where the athletics director has to step up and operate like a powerhouse, a CEO, not a caretaker. Build the right relationships, strengthen NIL, fire up the fan base, empower the donors, our shareholders, from the big check writers to the everyday families and the smaller donors and fans who give because they absolutely love this school, because you have to treat them like they all matter, because they all do. Big 12 is not going to hit the pause button until we figure it out. And every school right now is sprinting. They're upgrading facilities, they're making NIL moves. We see that with Texas Tech. Obviously they have a little bit of advantage over us, but we need to invest in the experience, build momentum. And you either match that intensity and innovate, or you fall behind. And UCF falling behind, I don't think that that's in our DNA. You look at how far we've come, how quickly we've come from conference to conference, just climbing and clawing our way up to where we are. So it's not now, not ever. We didn't fight our way into the Big 12 just to sit politely in the corner. We came here to compete, to ascend, to dominate, and that requires leadership with fire, vision, and urgency. And the moment demands it, and frankly, UCF deserves it.
Yeah, well spoken, like a trial attorney. We'll make you the legal cancel of this show. So
you got it. You got it.
A new side gig. So good job there.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
All right, Emily, you're up next.
Yeah, so I think that in a time where a lot of fans are focusing on kind of the doom and gloom of the football team specifically, I wanted to point out something that was a little bit of an unexpected bright spot in the season. And I think that is defensive coordinator Alex Grinch. And one of my absolute favorite things to do during the coaching carousel is see how other fan bases react to hires, specifically hires within the UCF community. So I think a good example is when Gus Malzahn was hired. We had a lot of Auburn fans that were telling us that we shouldn't really be too excited for this hire because we'd soon realize what his faults were. And it was very interesting that a lot of the things that they called out that they were unhappy with were things that fans ended up being really unhappy with. Similarly, when we hired Alex Grinch, Oklahoma fans were in UCF fans' mentions basically telling them that we were doomed. We weren't going to see any results. This was somebody that we were going to want to clean shop out of 6 weeks into the season. I was a little confused because I then went to go find his statistics when that happened. And I specifically remember that when he entered the OU defensive space in 2019, he reduced the third down conversion rate from 46% to 32 or something like that, which isn't necessarily anything to sneeze at, but there were some other statistics that were a little bit more eye-catching as far as, is this somebody that was the right hire? When you look at what he's done with UCF, though, you now have a defense that's been ranked nationally a couple of times, which I think is not something that anybody expected. When you have almost 70 new players on a team, and a big chunk of that is the defense that, quite frankly, was left in tatters when the old administration left. I don't know that this was something that we were expecting. And I know that one of the complaints of the defense last year is that they never truly looked prepared. They always looked as though they were lost. They were always turning, they were looking at the sidelines for direction. This defense has literally set UCF records. When you look at Philip Dunham with his 3 interception game, that is something that no player had ever done. One of those was a pick 6. They've just come out electric every single time. And even faced against some of the better teams, they've shown fight and they've shown resilience and they've performed at a level that we have not seen a defense perform at, I would say probably since the Josh Heupel 2018 season is the last time that we really saw a defense that was able to do the things that this defense is able to do on the field and the results that they're able to bring. And so as we look forward to 2026 season, I am somebody that very firmly believes a rebuild is 3 years. It takes 3 years to really get the people that you want, especially in the NIL landscape where turnover is so high. But as we look to try and bring good things into the second year of this rebuild, I think it's all hands on deck to keep Alex Grinch. Don't let him get pulled away, especially with such a really insane coaching carousel this year. One I don't know that we've seen in the last 4 years, maybe more. There's so many vacant positions. I think that it will be really important that we retain him to keep that momentum going as we continue to figure out the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, very good stuff there. And Jackie, what is your nightcap?
All right, my thing is just looking forward and kind of focusing on improving. We're talking about, athletics in general, but UCF baseball. So that's my, I don't have season tickets to basketball anymore. I used to, but baseball I do, and it's one of those things where same kind of thing. We had the really exciting wins, the ranked wins, and then we get to conference, and I know we're in a little bit tougher conference now, obviously for baseball than we were, and it's Rich Wallace's second year. Um, so I'm excited to see that, but kind of same thing. I'm just really like what we need to do, our steps to get to going to regionals again, and we're in the state of Florida. It's recruit around you. It's ridiculous that, we just can't recruit around us and get the guys, but supposedly they had a really good year in the portal, if I'm not mistaken. So looking forward to that year. I think they're going to have a big year. But I wanted to focus away from football and onto another sport that I love, even though it gets kind of lost in there. But yeah, so just that was all my thoughts on that.
All right. Yes, you are a champion of the ball and stick sports. So that's a
Yeah, I try. I know. It's like Emily's husband's least favorite sport on Twitter.
All right. So my nightcap is going to go back to football. It kind of goes into the patience category as far as the program is concerned, because remember, all the years we say we need to be in a power conference, we deserve to be in a power conference. You also have to be careful what you wish for, because when you step up to the level you have to step up to, and you don't have the same resources, you're gonna struggle. And that is definitely the case of what is happening here. And again, I think people get those heavy expectations. This might be left over from when we thought we were going to go undefeated every year. That, it's a rebuild. It's a rebuild. Now, here's the problem though. And the sad part is the current climate in college football. People don't have the patience for a rebuild, particularly those who are dropping the bag into the coffers of UCF. They want instant results. They want the championship the next year. And it just doesn't happen that way when you turn over a roster of 60, 70 people. And it is absolutely crazy. There's a reason Alabama is not looking like they did under Nick Saban. Now, part of that is because they don't have Nick Saban, but Caleb DeBoer is a good coach. But he's having to deal with these same things too, because Alabama doesn't get to pay all the players to come to their university anymore because everybody else can pay them. So this is the challenge that we have to have. It's a difficult time in college football. I kind of hate these things that are happening because there are no guardrails. And have we gone so far that guardrails are impossible to put in? I hope not, because it's going to have to happen at some point for the good of the sport. And even as I complain about all these things about the portal and NIL and things like that, guess what? The ratings for college football are amazing. They draw and are making huge money with their TV contracts. So it's kind of that catch-all situation there. It feels like being in I don't know, in the middle of the ball, and all this stuff is happening around you, and it's just totally nuts. And you have to really figure out how to do your next move. And guess what? You plan your next move, and somebody leaves, and you got to redo that 2 different ways. So again, hopefully we will address this rebuild, and hopefully Scott gets the time to do it. I'm really hoping that the Nebraska tenure did not break him. I would like to see him. I love what he's done with the culture because it's like a million times better already. So that has happened. But maybe we need a little more UCF fast. Do what he does well. So I would not mind, you can't do it 100 miles an hour all the time like you did 8 years ago. But we need a little bit more of that to I think use the tools that we know he's good at is what I would like to see. So there you have it. Another edition of To Your Point is in the books. So for our panel, we thank you very much, Tiffany, Emily, Jackie. I'm Jeff Allen. Thank you so much for joining us.